Hey everybody, I'm Nico.
That makes me Kevo.
And this is mcu.html/SammyJimmyBirdarm / why did you use Sharon like that? / at least we finally got a new cap. / Bucky's friend and him are sort of okay in a weird roundabout way. / I guess Wyatt ultimately ended up likable. And Julie Louis-Dreyfus.
That's a really long URL, but oh, there's more.
.shtml because it's a secure link. Because it's Shield.
Because it's Shield. I like that. But Sammy Jimmy, the bird, the Shield, it was all very exciting. This is probably my favorite installment in the Captain America franchise so far.
Really?
As much as I miss Steve. Steve was always my favorite part of the Captain America franchise, but I was watching a franchise I didn't care as much about for one character. I really liked this installment a lot.
Now, I appreciate that. I probably prefer my Captain America to feature a little more Steve, but it's certainly not a disregard for either Sam or Bucky. I will say the Steve I need the least is Wyatt, and that mad embarrassing Shield.
Yeah, that crumpled like an aluminum can.
I mean, that was the second most embarrassing Shield the MCU television series has produced yet.
I'm not arguing, I'm just saying, oof. Shield was good at things.
I liked things about it for sure.
It must have been. It ran for over 100 episodes.
And I mean, my taste is questionable. Look at my hat. I do think that it was finally good to get a new Cap. This is the first time that a character's really handed over the torch to somebody. We've had a few close calls. We're still lacking an Iron Man, even though we've got, Spidey Iron Boy.
And Riri is in the works.
And, we're going to get a few more transitions. We're going to get the incredible She-Hulk, which is evidently going to feature some amount of Hulk. We're going to get Kate Bishop, who is going to learn at the quiver of Clint. So I'm really excited for that. But this was the first handoff, and that it was between Steve and, in a lot of ways, Sam and Bucky was necessary.
I get that. So let's talk about the new Captain America, first and foremost. It's his show. That title card at the end was pretty cool. Captain America. This season, in a lot of ways, reminded me of season 1 of Daredevil on Netflix, where it took the whole season for the character to take up this mantle. But at the same time, he was already an established hero in the MCU.
Yeah.
So it was really more about him taking... It's hard to call it a promotion, but
the actual position.
Because it's not like I think that in any way being Captain America is inherently better than when he was Falcon. It's more like he took on extra, because he still has the wings, much like in the comics, which I think is really great, really smart. It adds a lot to the character, makes him very different from Steve.
And now he is burdened with glorious iconography. And that's what's important, that we remember that. I mean, that's the whole point of the show. It's not just that we need white icons, it's that we need all sorts of icons. I think it's a really great move on the part of Disney Plus and the MCU team and Kevin Feige and, his Feigelicious definition of transferring heroes over from the old guard to the new guard without making it super ham-handed. I was a really big fan of this transition.
And I was a really big fan of the things that they let Sam do. This is really the first Captain America installment that I feel actually tried to be actively political. In previous installments, a lot of the political messages have just been, Nazis are bad.
Punch!
Yeah, we knew that, but this is the first time that we got to see a Captain America actively pontificate on a current political situation in the MCU, one that doesn't fully reflect what's going on in reality, so it's something that they are allowed to take liberties with, but it's still him making statements on immigration and the way that we treat displaced peoples. I had been waiting the entire speech for them not to go as hard as they could, and they really said everything that I felt needed to be said in this situation, and I was really proud of them for not pulling back on that. Now, as for the other half of the title, Mr. Metal Arm, I don't know how I feel about the resolution of Bucky's story at the end of all of this. I don't feel like there is a ton. He got a lot of great screen time, and I liked what they did with him.
Yeah.
But, therapy doesn't just end like that, where you leave your therapist at present. I don't really fully understand the resolution with his friends, I guess, and that's fine.
I think part of it is that even if you aren't directly the cause of someone's pain intentionally. It doesn't mean that the pain isn't there, and it doesn't mean that your face doesn't cause further pain. And so even though he changed these people's lives forever with sadness, they're able to recover and continue living a life that he can see is good, even if he can't see part of it.
And, you know, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with the people who were affected by him not wanting him around. At the end of the day, it's really mostly just important that Bucky was able to embrace family through the Wilsons and that we got to see him spending time with them. I'm pretty annoyed at the end of 6 episodes by Malcolm Spellman's comments of wait and see when it came to those tiger picks, because guess what? It meant flipping nothing. And I'm really, really, really tired of writers saying that. Just say it's not going to mean anything.
Yeah.
Because dragging us along and acting like it's going to go somewhere is specifically insulting to the queer community and to fans in general, saying you're going to do something with a character that you don't. Just be honest. We're still going to watch the story. We're still going to enjoy it. We're still getting more visibility across the spectrum as the MCU grows. So, like, just don't tell us it's going to be one place that it's not.
And I think one of the things that's important about Bucky is his story was about so many things. One of the things that they unfortunately kind of glossed over is how much of this show is about the results of PTSD. And Bucky is sort of the most resounding example of it. What would have been maybe a more appropriate answer is Bucky's story right now does not hinge on acceptance from another, but rather hinges on acceptance of self internally. So even if something does come of the Tiger Picks, there's no burden for it to affect the ongoing narrative at this point. Understanding that Bucky's story was about healing from inside when the wounds were caused by external forces is really so much more important than any potential relationship they could have given him. So in many ways, the sort of obfuscation almost undermines the quality of the storytelling, and it's one of those ways that if I really want to love a show sometimes, it's a little bit easier for me as a fan to just kind of let it happen and do my research afterward.
And at the end of the day, we're definitely going to be getting more character development from Bucky for as long as Sebastian Stan is up for playing the character, which is indefinitely as long as they want him. But who we will not be ever seeing again is Carly.
I liked Carly, and I really liked the actress.
Yes, I definitely liked the actress. Loved her no matter what.
The performance was terrific. The performance of an uneven character performed evenly is a delicate thing. And like, I could see myself make crazy eyes in the video just now. And I'm kind of okay with that because I think that Carly is a lost soul who wants what's best for her people. And it would have been really cool to get to meet her in a different situation, under different circumstances, and get to know her better uniquely. Perhaps there was a little bit more there that wound up on the editing room floor that would have given us a little bit more to value from Carly instead of just deal with.
And it's pretty natural, especially if they had to make shuffles and edits for a showrunner to focus more on our heroes, making sure that their stories stay strong versus a villain that they know is not going to last beyond these 6 episodes. I hope they can get a villain in Captain America 4 a little bit better than this, and it's why I do sort of hope that it's not a political villain and instead can be an alien or a snake lady, apparently. I'd be cool with something like that instead, because the political stuff was a little bit all over the place when it came to the villain and understanding what their motivations were.
Now you might be saying to yourself, Nico, oh wait, you wouldn't call yourself Nico, but you might be saying to yourself, why is Nico wearing a Deadpool hat? And I would say to you, it's because Deadpool is a weapon. And by that I mean capital W. That's his weapon plus. Captain America ultimately had his origin story rewritten to be that his origin is kind of the same origin as Wolverine, where they're both a result of the weapons experiment. Weapon X means weapon 10. Captain America is from the first weapon project. Now these are series of weapons, this guy himself also being a weapon project guy. I really liked Isaiah Bradley's connectivity to that sort of source material. He was a result of experimentation. It's really great for me as a comic fan to get Isaiah Bradley tying into this element of storytelling. But every example of storytelling needs to exist in a vacuum in a lot of ways. It's not enough for me to say, no, but they experimented on this black man because they did it historically and in this comic book. No. that's sort of an unfair use of a person of color as an item or a backdrop to a story. The show had a lot to prove to make it okay. And I couldn't believe they pulled it off with episode 6. The end of this episode wasn't just moving, but it was what you'd want for Steve. And here it was for Isaiah. That's a transformative element of the story. Not just giving a black superhero his due, because it would actually be really easy to give Falcon his due, to give War Machine his due. Soon enough, hopefully, Photon. But this was an obscure man from a past that didn't respect men like him, who had been erased to time. They found a way to hit on elements of that really stoked my emotional need for this character to get his resolution.
And I really love all of that, and I really agree with it, and to expand on it going forward, I was thinking about the character of Eli Bradley going forward, and, you know, we don't know whether or not we're going to get more of his character. It was very specific to introduce his character and not do anything with him going forward, but my hope is that they do not follow his comic canon, because in a similar vein, I really don't want them to force this steroid human growth hormone storyline onto a young black hero, because it's just not a burden that he should have to carry. A lot of the Young Avengers they're introducing, though, there's a lot of them with tragic backstories or weird comic runs that I don't want them to necessarily touch, but I would really, really, really love to see Eli Bradley. I would love to see him as Patriot, and I hope that they do it in such a way that it is using the character in a positive way.
Absolutely.
As for different characters that certain people just can't get enough of, you just don't seem to care how they use Zemo, you just love seeing him.
Yeah, I kind of love that he's a sociopath with absolutely no apologies for it. You know what? Here's why I love that. So rarely does a sociopath want to kill Nazis so bad.
Yeah, okay.
He just loves killing Nazis. I mean, the problem is he is okay with killing lots of people that aren't Nazis. It's that he has actual ideological differences with the heroes. Like, he is like a really tremendous character. He's really complicated, and he is a Baron. He has a really cool mask, and he leads the Thunderbolts, and I'll admit, my attachment to Zemo is ideological more than it is practical in the comics. He's a real disgusting piece of shit. But a good Zemo, a well-done Zemo, a Zemo under the thumb of an aggressive Wakandan regime could be a Zemo that could really be the sort of like he could be my special redeemed villain. I love Cap villains so much, it's hard for me to want them to stay evil unless they're Nazis. I don't need Red Skull, I don't need Sin, I don't need Crossbones, don't need my Nazis. No thank you.
I think it was really interesting that Zemo took out the remaining super soldiers. At first, a lot of people were so confused. They were like, who's that old man? And I was one of them. And then I was like, oh, it's the Butler.
It's Zemo's Alfred.
The Butler did it. I think it's really interesting that the MCU refuses to let there be rogue super soldiers out there after Captain America Civil War, and we thought there were going to be all these super soldiers in Siberia. Nope, they're all dead when we get there. You think that all of these super soldier flag smashers are potentially going to come back up again, and then it just blows right the fuck up immediately. Both unexpected and entertaining, but it's certainly interesting that they refuse to let any rogues out there if they can help it.
They've done this before. Think about how many Iron Man suits they've blown up. They just don't want Avengers tech out there to make a storyline problem unless that's the story they're doing.
Which I think we could potentially see coming up in Armor Wars. They definitely want to make sure that they put stories as much to bed as they can, with the potential that they might never come up again.
But you know what they definitely want to see come back up? They definitely want to see my precious Contessa, my Precious Contessa, and my glorious Thunderbolts! I've made no secret of that, like, the Thunderbolts is, like, my favorite comic, and, like, it's not my favorite comic, but it's probably my favorite Avengers run of all time, even though it's not the Avengers, but it is my favorite Avengers run of all time.
Avengers-like.
Yeah, and then for a period of time, the Thunderbolts were the Dark Avengers. Like, literally, the team of Thunderbolts became the Dark Avengers. The Dark Avengers is something I very much expect to see done in the Marvel Universe. Instead of being led by Victoria Hand, they're going to be led by the Contessa, which, look, Victoria Hand had the most perfect purple streaks in the history of comics, so I'm pretty fucking fucking devastated, but Contessa is a perfect substitute. Now, in the comic version, it was Norman Osborn as the Iron Patriot. Don't ask questions, it doesn't get easier. It was Sentry standing in for kind of Captain America and kind of Thor, Ares standing in for kind of Thor, Moonstone, who is a Captain Marvel villain, stood in for Captain Marvel, stuff like that. One of the things that is really interesting is I think they're going to reposition U.S. Agent as the sort of Cap villain in Thunderbolts, which he has been at different points in different iterations, but not like this. I don't think they're going to be able to conveniently get to Daken, Wolverine's son, to be Dark Wolverine. So yeah. I'm just suggesting if you need a little Dark Wolverine, I can't think of anybody who would be a more perfect, annoying Dark Wolverine. Make me so happy.
You know, Wyatt Russell himself has specifically said he doesn't know what his future with the MCU is, and he played his final scenes as though that would be the end of his character, which I think is smart, because you don't ever know. I begrudgingly enjoyed where his character came to.
Yeah.
He made the right decision when the cards were down. Did he do something horrific? Yes. So did Wanda many times, and that is a character that we still root for. I understand that, what?
Every decision Wanda made is completely justified, and I won't hear anything else about this.
You know, I think that John Walker could go in a similar direction for what you want from Zemo, where he's sort of an anti-hero, where he's not completely evil, but he is willing to do the darker things that the heroes that we love won't do, because that's why we love them. I think Wyatt played the character very well, but, you know, he could devolve into even more jackassery as time goes on, and it might just still similarly be entertaining.
I hope not. I mean, I love who he became as a character U.S. Agent in the comics. He's not always my favorite, but, you know, he is definitely a better Cap substitute than perhaps Zemo as Citizen V, who is a megalomaniac. If I may, though, Contessa sources back to an era of S.H.I.E.L.D., classic eras of S.H.I.E.L.D. If you want an idea of who Contessa is to comic fans,
Lisa Rinna.
That she's so exciting. Definitely Lisa Rinna. But also, check out the Jim Steranko Nick Fury run. Actually, it's really funny. His most famous cover is the issue that is a reprint issue. So he only did the cover. He didn't do any of the interiors. But it's like the most famous Nick Fury cover of all time. And, you know, graphic. And so I feel like it really is a special era where she was like super cool spy lady. She was like fucking riding around on a Vespa, being super cool and like amazing.
Do stunts.
And she is just so great and so classy. And to see this reinterpretation of her, it's sort of exciting because it's kind of like taking this very James Bond idea and contrasting it with a very modern sort of aggression. And I just very much like it. And I'm very excited to see where she goes. She's not too big a name for the Marvel Universe because let's never forget Odin was Sir Anthony Hopkins.
In a film directed by Kenneth Branagh. And that was like the fourth MCU film.
A decade ago.
So like, you know, it's people love making these.
But she's kind of too good for this, and I can't get over how good she is!
I don't disagree. I was shocked. I continue to be shocked. I can't imagine what potential further future cameos they have based on the surprise of Julia Louis-Dreyfus. But you know what we're not pretty excited about?
I am not here for Sharon Carter, warlord of the slums. This is not what I signed up for.
And what we'd been saying is, yeah, okay, but she's probably a triple agent, or she is a Skrull. And then you read some things on Sharon's character that have come out since the episode debuted several weeks ago that give us a very different perspective on where they'd been going with the character.
There is a rumor going around that based on pretty severe negative fan reaction, they're retooling her to be a little bit more significant again and bring her back to a very positive place. I can only want that for her because too many people see her as Peggy Light, which I can't even tell you how far from true that is in the comics. Sharon Carter in the comics is such a dynamic, important character on her own. She has held down her own miniseries. When Steve was dead, she was one of the three people who pretty much was Steve for a year and a half. It was her, Bucky, and Sam. So she really got shortchanged here.
It's my understanding that she is more significant in the comics by far than Peggy Carter ever was. is. And it's really only on the strength of the performance of Haley Atwell and the positive response to her character from the Captain America movies that have made the MCU iteration of Peggy Carter so popular. But like, her grandniece is kind of way more badass. I would like to see that character in the MCU. I don't even understand her villain journey in the first place. Okay, she was on the run from the government, but then she was snapped for 5 years. If she'd been here the entire time and been building up as the power broker, maybe. But it just doesn't even make sense with how her character has existed in the timeline for her to be this kind of evil figure. And I think it would ultimately be more entertaining and a better payoff for a Marvel superhero, for her to be a triple agent, for her to be a Skrull, something like that. But just like, no, we wanted to make Sharon evil. Why?
Why?
Explain to me why, because I can literally see no positive reason to make a Marvel hero into a villain like that.
Expliquez-vous, Agent Face. I've enjoyed Sam's journey and Bucky's journey. I've enjoyed John Walker's journey and my precious helmet. But I was not as crazy about the journey that Sharon took, which was disrespectful of the character in some ways. It felt maybe more is coming and I'm going to look a fool and a document is going to come out that says this was always the plan. But at the moment, I wasn't crazy about Sharon's journey. I did feel that Battlestar got a very unfortunate shake. It would be unfair to compare this to WandaVision.
Yes.
But it did lack some of the heart that WandaVision dripped with. I'm not trying to compare two very unrelated shows, but it is hard not to notice that their targets were very different.
Would you want more of this, or would you prefer the Captain America franchise stay cinematic?
I think Sam should get the movies, Bucky should get the TV show, and I'm not saying...
They can appear in both, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying make Captain America, the TV show, exactly the Captain America Corps, starring Bucky trying to whip U.S. Agent and Citizen V into shape exactly.
It'd be
but
fun.
Especially if there was some Dora Milaje just kind of like looking over the whole thing going, bad job! No! Bad job, no. White Wolf! Bad job! I'd be super into it.
Now I want that show.
Exactly. But you know, I would probably keep Sam in the movies where he belongs, keep giving Bucky some Disney Plus love, but make sure that they both know that they're everybody's welcome everywhere.
So ultimately, like me, you wouldn't want more of this specifically. And I think that's where it's at. I would want to see a specific evolution of the brand. You know, like I said, maybe try a non-political villain for Captain America for once. That would be cool. This was really great, but
super happy with it.
Much like Elizabeth Olsen has been saying, there's probably not going to be another WandaVision. Maybe that's okay. Maybe it's okay for these things to be what they are in the moment, and we find new ways to explore those characters' story instead of just automatically being like, season 2.
And I mean, you know, well before we have season 2 of anything coming, we have... Wait, edit me out. I'm Loki, I'm a trickster. Poof.
Are you going to poof back in, or no?
Well...
Oh. Oh my.
Poof!
Poof. Okay. Good job. Good job.
Loki,
poof trickster. Already getting a second season, even ahead of any of the episodes having aired.
Yeah.
So, like, let's not talk about too many shows getting season 2s. We're excited for Loki. We're excited to be able to talk to all you about it.
And until next time, poof!
Don't hurt yourself now.
Am I out of the screen yet?
No, let me pull your chair out for you. No? I'm not going to hurt you. I'm your husband. But we love you. And I love you.
Hey guys, if you like that cut, you'll be sure to like some of our other materials. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out these other amazing videos here at X's for Podcast.